Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another walk around. If you are new to my channel or new to this kind of video on my channel, let me explain the concept. It's quite simple. I walk around the car and essentially give you guys a static review. If you like what you see, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. My name is Aaron. Anyway, enough of that. On to this week's car, which is the brand new facelifted Audi S3 model code 8Y if you want to be extra nerdy. So as always, I will take you around the car, talk you through the specification and give you my first impressions. So yes, the new Audi S3, what are their headlines? Well, it has more power, more torque, and speaking of torque, it has the torque splitter, which has been handed down from this car's bigger brother, the Audi RS3. So we'll talk about the engine in more detail in a little bit. Let's kick off with the way how the car looks, because of course we are outside the car. Now, there's kind of an ongoing joke for my regular viewers. You will know that pretty much every time I get a car from Audi UK, it is finished in Tango Red. Not a complaint, just an observation and something that makes me chuckle. Now this car in front of you looks to be the exact same colour, but no, this is actually in fact progressive red, but to my untrained eye, that looks Tango Red to me. That aside, it is a very nice colour on a day like today where the sun is out, which makes a nice change in the UK. When the sun hits it, it is a glorious shade of red. But yeah, to me it looks the same as Tango Red. But to be fair, it's nice seeing a bright Audi compared to white, black, silver, grey, etc. Here we have something rather bold and vibrant. Now, let's talk about the front end, because this has caused not controversy, but a bit of a conversation, shall we say. For starters, you have the new badge on the S3, and it's, I'd say, a 3D badge. Some people like it, some people don't. I do quite like it, if I'm going to be honest. What I don't like is the fact that the S3 badge has been removed from the front grille. So when you're looking at the front end, you wouldn't really know this is an Audi S3. You would look at it and go, oh, that's a nice looking A3, but no, this is of course the S3. But yeah, Audi, for whatever reason, if you know, please let me know in the comment section below, has removed the front S3 badge, which I think is a shame. I know a lot of manufacturers are trying to cut costs, but surely manufacturers can't be that hard done by when it comes to finances. Now, if we go to the rear of the car, you will quickly see that the S3 badge at the back is still sitting proud. But yeah, from the front end, the S3 badge has gone. I like the design of this car, not a million miles away from the predecessor. Now, again, like many, I'm not a big fan of the front grille. The size isn't the issue, although some of you will go, wow, that is gopping. But no, it's the fact that, I don't know, it's just a bit plasticky and it doesn't really scream quality. I wouldn't call it cheap. I think that would be rude and unfair, but yeah, I'm not a massive fan of it. What I am a fan of though are the 19-inch alloys. They are very, very nice. So you can see my shadow, which is a little bit annoying for you, but yeah, 19-inch alloys. Now, unlike the previous Audi S3 I tested, these are shod with Bridgestone Potenzas, which wouldn't be my first choice, but they have done a pretty commendable job. The last S3 I had was fitted with Goodyear Eagle F1s, and I would prefer that compound over this, but like I say, these have done a good job, so I've got no complaints. And to be honest with you, the grip this car offers is outstanding. The speed you can carry through the corners is almost unbelievable. Even though it is quite cold in the UK today, in fact, the car is frosty this morning, yeah, the chassis, the tyres, the suspension, they've done a fantastic job of keeping you glued to the road. And you do need to provoke the car quite a bit, or you need to be quite clumsy with the controls to break traction. So yeah, this is one of those cars where you're going through a corner, you look down at the speed and go, oh blimey, I didn't know I was doing that speed. I best let off a little bit. But yeah, very quick car, very capable. As I may have mentioned, it has more power and more torque. In fact, normally I would come to the engine a little bit later in this video, but seeing as that is one of the highlights of the car, let's get on with it and do it now. So of course, under the bonnet you have the iconic, if you can open it, always a little bit awkward with one hand. You have the iconic EA888 2 litre turbocharged 4-pot, which offers more power and torque. So in the last S3, this engine would have given you 310 horsepower along with 400 newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, I will drop a caption at the bottom of the screen now. The new car though has more power, more torque. Oh yes, this has 333 horsepower along with 420 newton meters of torque. That power is still fed to all four wheels via the Quattro Howdec system via a 7-speed S-tronic gearbox. The 0 to 62 time has fallen now. It was 4.8 seconds if I'm not mistaken, whereas now it's 4.7. Did I say 0 to 60 or 0 to 62? Or did I say either? Anyway, the 0 to 62 is 4.7 seconds, whereas the last car was 4.8. So you've gained a 0.1 of a second. Are you going to notice that in the real world? Probably not, but it's a bragging rights down the pub if you've bought a brand new S3 and your mate has the old S3. So yeah, you can brag about that. In regards to fuel economy on a combined run, I believe it's 33 mpg. I think more specifically 33.2, but I may need to correct myself with a subtitle. Now, interestingly, last week I had the Cupra Formentor, has the same running gear, same engine, and I don't know whether it's because I enjoyed my time with it more and drove it in a more exuberant manner, but in the Cupra Formentor, on a more spirited drive, I was getting around 17 to 18 mpg. I know, it's rubbish. Whereas in this, similar kind of driving, I've been getting more around 22 mpg. So yeah, for me at least, I find it quite interesting because they're, well, I was going to say the same car, but they're very similar cars, aren't they? Same platform, just different bodies and probably slightly different technologies, but you get my point. So yeah, very quick car indeed. I like the fact that you get a gas strut to hold the bonnet up, whereas in the Formentor you don't, and the bonnet of the Formentor is quite heavy. Speaking of, sorry, going back to the design features, I like the door mirror caps. Now, they look to be real carbon. If they're not, that is a very good imitation, but for the price this car is, I would hope they are real carbon. Speaking of which, so this is the base model S3. Now, I'm using the prices given to me by Audi UK on the spec sheet, which may be a little bit out of date, but this car with options is £57,120. So you have the progressive paint red, put your teeth back in, Aaron. You have the progressive red paintwork, which is, if I'm not mistaken, £595. I am doing that from memory, so I'm likely to be wrong. The other option you have, and I'm quite shocked I haven't mentioned it yet, is the Akrapovic exhaust. So as an option, you can have the performance exhaust system, and it's not a cheap option. So let me bring it down here. You can see the titanium tips. Don't get me wrong, it is a very sexy exhaust system, but it's not cheap. There's no easy way to say this, so I'll just say it. It's £4,125. Ouch! That is a lot of money for an exhaust. Don't get me wrong, the exhaust sounds pretty good, but would I say it sounds good enough to warrant spending an extra £4,125? In my humble opinion, no. Now, annoyingly, one thing you can't have as an option on the S3 is, well, I was going to call it the dynamic chassis control, but Audi called it something different. Just wait for these bikes to go past. Yeah, for Volkswagen and Cupra, it's a DCC, but in this they call it damper control. But essentially it's adaptive suspension. So you can't have it as an option on the base S3, which is a shame because the ride in this, it's not awful, but it's definitely firm, and I'd say particularly around town at slow speeds, it has got a slight brittle nature to it, which I don't remember experiencing in the previous S3. It could just be poor muscle memory, but the ride in this car just feels a little bit worse compared to the last S3, but that could be me talking absolute twaddle. I think I'd have to drive both cars back to back to give you a more accurate answer. But could you daily this car? Yes, but the fact that you can't have the adaptive dampers as an option is, in my opinion, quite disappointing. If you want the adaptive dampers, you have to go for the Vorsprung, which give or take is £5,500 more than the base car, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, a bit cheeky that Audi have basically gone, well, if you want adaptive dampers, you'll have to go for the Vorsprung. But yeah, that is my humble opinion. The torque splitter, we haven't talked about that. That comes as standard on the S3 and has been handed down from the Audi RS3. Also used in the Golf R and of course the new Coupe Formentor, another motorbikes I should say. So essentially it's able to distribute the power across the rear axle on the fly, and it helps to minimise understeer. And believe me, when you have this car in Dynamic Plus, in the right corners with the right throttle input, you can really feel the outside wheel just helping to push the car around the corner. It's quite a peculiar feeling, but it feels quite cool at the same time. And you may think, oh, well, I bet you can't feel it. Genuinely, guys, you can feel the outside rear pushing the car around. It's, yeah, it's a strange feeling. As I'm near the back of the car, let's talk about the boot, which remains unchanged in the last S3. So, not the largest boot in the world. As always, it's filled with my filming crap. I will cut to a clip where the boot is empty. Annoyingly, on the S3 you have to use manual labour to open the boot, whereas on the Coupe Formentor, on the VZ1 at least, you get an electric tailgate. So yeah, a bit disappointing for the amount of money you're spending. You have a manual tailgate, but there's worse things in life. 325 litres at your disposal with the rear seats folded down. I think it's I was going to say around 1400 litres. I'm just going to cheat and refer to the spec sheet very quickly. Where are we? Oh no, I was well off. No, it's 1,145 litres. I think I was thinking of the Coupe Formentor, which offers you 1,475 litres with the rear seats down, if I'm not mistaken. Seeing as we're talking about the rear aspect of the vehicle, let me step inside and I will go through rear space. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller guy, but I'll show you legroom and headroom in a few moments. You'd have to excuse the lighting. It's a very dark cabin and you have a very bright day, and those two things don't mix very well from a filming perspective. I do have an old pillowcase to avoid the mat getting grubby. So not as much space as I had in the Coupe Formentor, but bearing in mind the driver's seat is set for my height, it's still pretty agreeable. I haven't got loads of knee room, but I've got enough, and don't forget I'm a tall guy sat behind a tall guy's driving position, so yeah, kind of a worst case scenario really, isn't it? If I bring you guys down here, again the lighting isn't fantastic, you should hopefully see I've got a decent amount of legroom, so no complaints. Headroom is also pretty good, so you can't really see because I've got dark hair and I've got dark roof lining above me, but there we go. So yeah, headroom is pretty good. Could you fit 3 adults in the back? No, but let's be honest, this is a medium-sized hatchback. Yeah, you're going to struggle to get 3 adults in the back, particularly as you do have a transmission tunnel running down the middle of the vehicle. Whilst I'm here, as you can see, you've got climate controls and 2 Type-C USB ports. You also have map pockets for a bit of extra storage, and you've also got door pockets which offer a decent size. You can get in a 500 millilitre bottle, though this bottle's smaller, obviously. Oh, I almost forgot to mention the centre armrest, which also has two cup holders in it, like so. Does this fold down yet? So you can fold that seat down to give you a feed through hatch. So the seats are 40-20-40. That's pretty much it for the rear. Can't think of anything else to go through. As you may have spotted, you do have a sunroof, which is quite nice on a day like today where we actually have some sun. Who'd have thought it? In case I haven't mentioned it, you also get a Sonos sound system as standard. I personally prefer the Bang & Olufsen sound system, but the Sonos does a pretty good job. Let me step into the front. Also quite like that feature. Tells you the make and model on the B pillar. One would argue needless, but I do quite like it. Step inside, you have fine Nappa leather seats, and I like the fact they're more of a grey-black compared to the last S3 I had, where I would say they were an ivory colour, and yeah, they're just asking to get stained, in my humble opinion. Right, let me take a pew. Oh, squeeze myself in. Try not to get the mat too grubby. Right, straighten up the steering wheel, because that's there we go. My music will probably kick in a few moments because my phone isn't on flight mode, but we'll see how we get on. As you would expect, there we go, as predicted. Where was I? Yes, so as we'd expect, you've got the wonderful Audi virtual cockpit, which is a joy to look at, so much so that you have to remind yourself, no, you really should be looking at the road. Speaking of which, you won't be able to see it on my camera, because it gets picked up slightly differently on the lens compared to a human eye, but as you can see, I do have a head-up display, which makes it easier to keep your eyes on the road, thus making you a more better and aware driver. Yeah, Audi virtual cockpit, very pleasing to use. Yeah, big fan of the Audi virtual cockpit, and you can see the MPG. It's actually fallen down a little bit. Oh, there we go. Long-term memory 22.3, but on today's drive 21.8. Yeah, touchscreen, very nice. Just spotted it. You've got Alexa on this as well. I hadn't spotted that before, I must confess. Other standard features, you have reversing camera, obviously. You have front and rear parking sensors. Pretty standard. You would expect that on a car of this age and price. One thing I do love, Audi are sticking to its guns. Look, you have physical controls for the climate control. Audi never change, well, at least in this area. Yeah, it's just so much nicer to be able to use physical buttons, and it means that when you're driving, you can spend more time looking at the road as opposed to fumbling around with the touchscreen. Yes, I know some of you will say, well, on cars you have voice commands. I get that, but the voice commands aren't always flawless. So yeah, the fact that you have physical controls in 2025 is amazing, if you ask me. You do get a wireless phone charging pad as standard, two more Type-C USB ports, 12-volt socket just here. There we go. All driving modes. Let me just talk you through the driving modes. Let's get rid of that. I don't know why that's still on. I'm in park. So I do find, I had this in the last S3, that you have to press the button at least twice for it to come up. Obviously that time it didn't, but normally, yeah, if I hit the button once, I have to hit it again for the drive modes to come up. See? I definitely hit it. So you have a choice of driving modes, of course: efficiency, comfort, auto, individual, and if I go into dynamic, you have dynamic plus, which if you hit, you get a health and safety warning saying stabilization control, ESC sport, warning, restricted stability. And you may have spotted as well that the revs rise slightly. Come on, drive select. So if I go from dynamic into dynamic plus, watch the rev counter. Oh, I was too slow. So you just see the needle just move up a little bit, just to give you a bit more performance. Now I would give you a few blips of the throttle, but I do have some dogs behind me. I don't want to startle them. But to be fair, I have actually filmed a little rev, so I can dump it into this video right about now. So of course, with it being a modern car, you do have a soft limiter, so you can't go beyond 4,000 RPM, and it stops idiots like me just revving the nuts out of it and destroying the engine. I'm joking. I'm very respectful. I wouldn't do that, but yeah, there are some people that would just keep revving it until the valves jump out the bonnet, and then you need a new engine, and that's going to be very expensive. If you go into the individual mode, you can change the settings, so you can change how you want the torque splitter to behave. Same goes with the drive system. Now, interestingly, I'm a bit confused by this because I can change the suspension, but this car hasn't got the adaptive dampers. So what exactly are you changing? you're not changing the ride. So I find that one a bit weird, because yeah, this hasn't got adaptive dampers. You can change the steering and change the engine sound as well. As I mentioned in the... Oh, blimey, I've been talking for a long time. I need to wrap this video up soon. As I mentioned in my last Audi video, I like the fact that you get subdued or pronounced. Would Sir like his engine note pronounced? Yes, he would. Other features, heated seats. You've also got a parking assist as well. Yeah, you've got a good amount of features, but yeah, you would expect it for a car of this price tag. Just quickly run through the practicality. So door bins are of a good size. That is a 1 litre bottle in there and a bit of space left over. If you can see, the lighting isn't particularly good. Glove box is of a decent size, and it's lined with a suede-like material. Very pleasing, probably Alcantara. 2 cup holders in the middle, bit of storage underneath the adjustable centre armrest. No sunglasses holder. And oh yes, I forgot, you've got a little compartment here, which I quite like. Little cubby hole, you can put your locking wheel nut key in here, for example, although there'd be a designated space in the boot for that. Right, let's jump out and conclude what has been quite an extended video. I didn't quite realise I've been talking for that long, so even the dogs are complaining. Yeah, so if you have any questions about this car, please do let me know. Bear in mind, I've only got this car for a week, and by the time you see this video, the car would have gone back to Audi UK. So if you're looking for any long-term ownership kind of questions, I won't be able to answer those. But whatever questions you do have, drop them in the comment section, and I'll try my best to answer them as quickly as I can and to the best of my ability. Anyway, it's really time for me to end. I didn't realise I've been talking quite this long. Yes, if you have enjoyed this video or found it useful, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.